Ladies and gentlemen, let me ask you something honest. How many times have you promised yourself, tomorrow I'll change, tomorrow I'll wake up early, tomorrow I'll focus, tomorrow I'll work harder, tomorrow I'll stop wasting time, and then tomorrow arrives and nothing really changes? It's not because you're weak, it's not because you're lazy, and it's not because you don't care. It's because something more powerful than motivation is running your life, your environment. Most people believe success is about willpower. They think if they just push harder, they'll transform. But willpower gets tired, motivation fades, emotions change. Meanwhile, your surroundings keep talking to your brain all day long. Your phone, your room, your friends, your routine, your media, your habits. They whisper instructions into your behavior without asking permission. You might start the day inspired, but by night you're scrolling, procrastinating, repeating old patterns. Not because you chose failure, but because your environment quietly trained it. Put a focused person in a noisy environment and focus slowly dies. Put a disciplined person in a lazy space and discipline slowly weakens. Not because the person is broken, but because the environment programs behavior faster than motivation can protect it. Look around your life right now. What do you see when you wake up? Distraction or direction? Comfort or structure? Growth or excuses? Your room shapes your discipline. Your phone shapes your attention. Your friends shape your ambition. Your media shapes your identity. And here's the dangerous part. Most people never design their environment, they inherit it. Then they wonder why growth feels impossible inside it. That's like planting a seed in bad soil and blaming the seed for not growing. This speech is not about hype, it's about control. It's about understanding the invisible system that shapes your habits every day. When you change the system, behavior becomes easier. When behavior becomes easier, consistency becomes natural. And when consistency becomes natural, success stops feeling forced. If you stay with me until the end, you'll discover why motivation alone always fails, how your surroundings quietly rewrite identity, how to build spaces, routines, and relationships that push you forward instead of pull you back, and how to stop fighting yourself every day just to make progress. By the final minutes, you won't just feel inspired, you'll feel organized, clear, in control. Because when your environment changes, your thinking changes. When your thinking changes, your actions change. And when your actions change, your life reorganizes itself. So don't listen to this just to feel good for a moment. Listen to it to think correctly about the invisible forces shaping your future. Your environment is louder than your motivation. And today, you're going to learn how to make it speak success into your life. Ladies and gentlemen, most people grow up believing a simple idea that if I get motivated enough, my life will change. They wait for a spark, a feeling, a moment of inspiration. But here's the uncomfortable truth. Motivation is emotional and emotion is unstable. What really shapes your life is not what you feel, but what surrounds you. You don't rise to your goals. You sink to your environment. Let me explain with a real-life picture. Think about water. If you drop a ball into water, it doesn't float up on purpose. It moves according to the pressure around it. Your life works the same way. The pressure of your surroundings, your habits, your space, your people, your routine quietly push you into certain behaviors without you even noticing. Look at someone who says, I want to wake up early and work on my goals. But their environment says something different. Their phone is beside the bed, notifications are on, the room is dark, messy, comfortable. The first thing they see is social media. That environment trains the brain to scroll, not to build. By the time motivation appears, the environment has already decided the action. So they don't fail because they lack desire. They fail because the environment already won. Another example, a student who wants good grades. They sit to study, but their desk is cluttered, the TV is on, friends are texting, and the phone vibrates every minute. Their mind never enters focus. They feel tired without learning anything. Compare that with another student who studies in a quiet place, phone away, clean table, fixed hours, same brain, different environment, totally different results. Motivation didn't change. Environment did. This is why people say, I don't know why I can't stay consistent. It's because consistency is not created by feelings. It's created by systems, and systems are built from surroundings. Think about someone trying to eat healthy. They say, I'm going to stop eating junk, but the fridge is full of sugar, chips, soda, and late-night snacks. The environment is tempting them every hour. Compare that to someone who keeps fruits, water, and healthy meals ready. One person must fight cravings all day. The other one simply follows what's available. Who do you think wins long term? Not the one with stronger motivation, the one with smarter environment. People often blame themselves. I lack discipline, but no one asks, what is training my behavior every day? Your environment trains you when you're tired. It trains you when you're emotional. It trains you when you're distracted. Look at workplaces. Put an ambitious person in a negative office where everyone complains, wastes time, and fears growth. Slowly, that person starts thinking small. Now put the same person in a space where people improve skills, talk about ideas, and execute. Suddenly, growth feels normal. Same person, different environment. Your mind copies what it sees repeatedly. That's why habits spread, laziness spreads, discipline spreads, focus spreads. Let me give you a deeper example. Think about someone who wants to start a business online. They follow motivational pages, watch videos, dream big. But their environment is built for consumption, not creation. They spend hours watching other people win instead of working on their own skill. Their environment trains them to admire, not to act. So they feel busy but stay broke. Now imagine another person who blocks distractions, schedules learning practices daily, and surrounds themselves with creators instead of consumers. Their environment trains production. Over time, confidence grows, skill grows, income grows. Again, not motivation, environment. This is why many people start strong and quit fast. They bring a new goal into an old system. But old systems reject new behavior. You can't build a new life in the same space that broke the old one. Another real touch, think about your friends. If your circle loves comfort, jokes about effort, and avoids responsibility, you slowly adapt. You don't notice it, but your standards drop. But if your circle talks about goals, money, fitness, learning, and growth, your standards rise naturally. You don't need pressure, you need proximity. Success is contagious when your environment supports it. Here's the key idea. Stop asking, how do I motivate myself? Start asking, what around me is shaping me? Look at your room. Look at your phone. Look at your routine. Look at your circle. These are not neutral. They are training programs. If your environment is built for comfort, your life becomes comfortable and limited. If your environment is built for growth, your life becomes challenging and powerful. So instead of fighting yourself every day, redesign what you see every day. Remove friction from good habits. Add friction to bad ones. Put your book on the table. Put your phone in another room. Put your goals in your face. Put disciplined people around you. When the environment is right, motivation becomes a bonus, not a requirement. Ladies and gentlemen, you're not failing because you're weak. You're failing because your environment is stronger than your intentions. And the moment you change what surrounds you, you stop sinking and start rising naturally toward the life you deserve. Ladies and gentlemen, whether you realize it or not, the people around you are quietly teaching you what is normal. Not through lectures, but through behavior. Their habits become your habits. Their standards become your standards. Their excuses become your excuses. You don't wake up one day and decide to lower your goals. It happens slowly through environment. There's an old idea, you don't choose your behavior, you absorb it. And the strongest influence in your environment is not furniture, apps, or schedules. It's people. Look at your circle. Are they builders or complainers? Are they disciplined or distracted? Are they growing or comfortable? Because whatever is common in your environment becomes acceptable in your life. Let me give you a real life touch. Think about someone who wants to improve their life. They start waking up early, reading, learning, working on skills. But their friends say, relax, you work too much, you've changed. Slowly, pressure appears, not violent pressure, emotional pressure, to fit in, to stay normal, to not look different. So they skip a day, then two, then a week. Not because the goal died, but because the environment demanded similarity. Now think of someone else who joins a gym. At first it's hard, but everyone around them trains, sweats, improves, talks about progress. Suddenly effort feels normal. Quitting feels strange. Their environment raises their standards without motivation speeches. Same human brain, different circle. People don't rise alone. They rise in rooms. Your friends influence how you speak, think, spend money, treat time, and react to pressure. If everyone around you wastes weekends, you waste weekends. If everyone around you learns and builds, you start building. Another example, money mindset. Sit with people who complain about money, fear, risk, and avoid learning skills. You start thinking small. Sit with people who discuss investment, business, and value. Your thinking stretches. Your income often reflects your environment's identity more than your intelligence. Let's talk about emotional standards. If your circle tolerates drama, laziness, and victim thinking, you absorb it. But if your environment values responsibility, growth, and calm problem solving, your emotional strength improves. Undirected people ask, what do I feel like doing? Directed environments ask, what must be done? Here's a deeper truth. Many people stay small, not because they lack ability, but because their environment punishes ambition. When you try to grow, you make others uncomfortable. So they joke, criticize, or distract you, not because they hate you, but because your growth exposes their stagnation. So they pull you back to safety. This is why separation often comes before elevation. Let me give you another real-life example. Someone wants to start a YouTube channel, business, fitness journey, or education path. Their family or friends say, be realistic. That's risky. No one succeeds. These words don't stop you instantly, but they plant hesitation. Overdoubt replaces execution. Now imagine instead a circle that says, try, fail, learn, improve. Suddenly courage feels normal. Environment decides courage. Another area is language. The words used around you shape identity. If your circle speaks negativity, limitation, and excuses, your internal dialogue copies that tone. But if your environment speaks possibility, structure, and standards, your self-talk upgrades, your inner voice is trained by outer voices. Now, let's get practical. How to use people to raise standards instead of lower them. First, not emotionally, but logically. Ask, do these people support growth or comfort, improvement or stagnation? Second, increase exposure to disciplined people, online, offline, mentors, communities, content creators, professionals. Proximity beats intention. Third, limit access to draining environments. Not hate, boundaries, protect your energy where growth is happening. Fourth, become the standard in your room. Sometimes you lead before others follow. Your consistency becomes influence. Here's something powerful. You don't need many people. You need the right pressure. One disciplined friend is stronger than 10 comfortable ones. Another example, someone learning public speaking. Alone, they avoid practice. In a speaking club or group, practice becomes routine. Fear reduces because the environment supports growth. You see, your mind always adapts to stay accepted. Use that psychology to your advantage. Place yourself where progress is expected, and you'll rise to meet it. Your environment doesn't ask permission before shaping you. It does it daily. So choose carefully who gets access to your habits, dreams, time, and thinking. Ladies and gentlemen, you don't become successful by accident. You become successful by association, standards, and exposure. Change the room, and the version of you inside that room will change automatically. Your people are not just company, they are your curriculum. Ladies and gentlemen, before you ever make a decision, your space already made one for you. The room you wake up in, the desk you sit at, the streets you walk, the phone you touch, they all send instructions to your brain. And most people don't realize it, but your physical environment quietly controls your behavior. People say, I'll change when I feel ready. But the truth is, you change when your space makes the right behavior easier and the wrong behavior harder. Let me start with something simple. Think about your bedroom. Is it clean or chaotic, organized or cluttered, bright or dark, productive or comfortable? Your room is not just decoration, it's a training ground for your habits. A messy room creates mental noise. When everything around you is scattered, your thinking becomes scattered. That's why people feel tired without working. Their brain is fighting disorder all day. Compare two people. One wakes up in a room full of clothes on the floor, phone on the bed, junk food nearby, TV facing the bed. That space trains relaxation and distraction. Another wakes up in a clean room, sunlight coming in, desk ready, books visible, phone far away. That space trains movement and focus. Same motivation, different behavior. Space controls what feels natural. Let me give you a real life example. A student who studies on their bed with the TV on, snacks everywhere, and phone beside them. Their brain connects the bed with sleep and entertainment, not learning. So studying feels heavy. Now put the same student at a desk, quiet place, clean table, phone away. Suddenly focus improves. The brain changes mode because space changed message. You see, your mind is constantly asking, what do we do here? And your environment answers. Kitchen, eat, bed, sleep, desk, work. If you mix environments, you confuse behavior. Another example, someone trying to exercise at home, but their space has no room, no equipment, no visual reminder of fitness. So workouts feel optional. Compare that to someone whose space has shoes ready, mat visible, water prepared. Their environment invites action. Action begins visually. Now think about your digital space too. Your phone screen is also a room. What lives there? Games, social apps, entertainment, or learning tools, calendars, notes, and growth content. Your digital environment programs your habits just as much as your physical one. If your phone opens to distraction, your day begins distracted. Another real life touch, someone working from home. If they work on the sofa, they feel sleepy. If they work at a table with structure, posture improves, thinking sharpens, space changes energy. Even lighting matters. Dark spaces calm the brain. Bright spaces activate the brain. That's why libraries, offices, gyms are designed differently than bedrooms. Your life should be designed, not accidental. Now, many people say, but I can't change my environment. Yes, you can, little by little. You don't need a new house. You need a new layout. Let's get practical. First, remove friction from good habits. If you want to read, place the book on your table. If you want to write, keep your notebook open. If you want to work out, keep shoes ready. Second, add friction to bad habits. Put your phone far. Hide junk food. Make distraction inconvenient. Third, separate spaces. Don't sleep where you work and don't work where you sleep if possible. Teach your brain different zones for different actions. Fourth, clean daily. Order creates psychological calm when space is clear. Thinking becomes clear. Fifth, use visual triggers. Quotes, goals, schedules, vision boards. Your eyes guide your behavior before your brain decides. Let me share a personal style example. Imagine someone who wants to build an online skill like editing, writing, coding, or content creation. They keep saying, I'll start later. But their desk is always cluttered, laptop closed, phone dominating attention. So starting feels heavy. Now they clean the desk, open the laptop, place notes nearby, and remove the phone. Suddenly starting feels easier. Behavior follows design. Another example, someone trying to save money. If their wallet and bank apps are chaotic, spending becomes emotional. But when they organize finances, track expenses, and set visible goals, discipline feels natural. Space doesn't just store objects, it stores identity. If your room looks like a lazy person lives there, your brain behaves lazily. If your room looks like a focused person lives there, your brain rises to match the image. Your environment is a mirror of who you think you are and also a mold of who you will become. So instead of asking, how do I force discipline? Ask, how do I design discipline? When space supports success, motivation becomes optional. Ladies and gentlemen, your environment is speaking to you every day. It tells you when to work. It tells you when to relax. It tells you what matters. If you listen carefully and redesign wisely, your space will stop distracting you and start directing you. Because when your space changes, your habits change. When your habits change, your identity changes. And when your identity changes, your life upgrades automatically. Ladies and gentlemen, just like your body becomes what you eat, your mind becomes what you consume. And today, most people are mentally starving while being emotionally overloaded. They scroll for hours, watch everything, absorb anything, and then wonder why their thinking feels weak, distracted, and confused. Here's the truth: your media diet is shaping your identity. If you feed your mind junk, it produces junk decisions. If you feed your mind clarity, it produces powerful action. People think motivation disappears randomly. It doesn't. It disappears because your mind is full of noise instead of nourishment. Let me give you a real-life picture. Someone wakes up and the first thing they touch is their phone. Not water, not sunlight, not movement. The phone, notifications, messages, reels, drama, news, comparisons. In 10 minutes, their brain has processed hundreds of other people's priorities before thinking about their own. So when they finally sit to work, their mind is already tired, not physically, mentally. That's why people feel exhausted without effort. Compare that to someone who wakes up, stretches, reads a few pages, writes goals, and delays social media. Their brain warms up instead of burning out. Their attention becomes steady instead of scattered. Same day, different media input. Media is not entertainment anymore, it's programming. Every video, post, song, and conversation leaves a fingerprint on your thinking style. If your feed is full of jokes, gossip, luxury, fantasies, and shortcuts, your mind starts craving easy dopamine instead of real progress. Another example: someone learning business, fitness, or self-development. If they only watch motivational clips without practice, they become inspired consumers, not disciplined creators. They feel good but stay the same. Now imagine someone who watches with intention tutorials, lectures, strategies, and then applies one idea every day. Their media becomes a classroom, not a circus. Again, environment wins. Let's talk about comparison culture. Social media shows highlight reels, not real work. People scroll and think others are ahead while they are behind. That kills confidence silently. They don't stop because they lack ability. They stop because their mental environment is telling them a false story. Everyone is winning except you. But successful people use media differently. They use it to learn, connect, and execute, not to compete emotionally. Your phone can either be your teacher or your thief. Another real-life touch: music. People underestimate it. But the words you repeat through songs become emotional habits. Angry music creates tension. Lazy music creates comfort. Powerful music creates movement. Your brain copies rhythm and language faster than logic. Same with movies and series. Watch stories of excuses, shortcuts, and chaos all day, and your brain normalizes them. Watch stories of discipline, courage, and strategy, and your standards rise. It is shaping how you react to life. Now let's get practical. How do you upgrade your mental nutrition? First, audit your feed. Ask, does this educate, empower, or distract? Remove what wastes attention. Second, delay consumption. Don't start your day by scrolling. Start by creating, write, plan, move, think. Third, replace, don't just remove. Swap entertainment with learning. Podcasts, audio books, tutorials, growth content. Fourth, set boundaries. Decide when you consume and when you produce. Don't mix them. Fifth, use media as a tool, not a habit. Let me give you another example. Someone wants to improve speaking skills. If they only watch speakers, nothing changes. But if they watch one clip, practice, wreck themselves, fix mistakes, repeat, media becomes leverage, not escape. Your environment should train performance, not fantasy. Here's something powerful: your attention is your life currency. Wherever you spend it, your identity grows there. Spend attention on drama, you become emotional. Spend attention on comfort, you become passive. Spend attention on growth, you become powerful. Most people are tired not because life is hard, but because their minds are full of useless information. So clean your mental diet like you clean your physical one. Unfollow noise, follow knowledge, mute distraction, subscribe to development. When your media environment improves, your motivation stabilizes naturally. You don't need hype, you need clarity. Ladies and gentlemen, your phone, your screen, your headphones are shaping your destiny more than you realize. Feed your mind with strength and your life will reflect strength. Because your environment is louder than your motivation, and media is the loudest voice in the room. Ladies and gentlemen, most people depend on motivation. They wait to feel like working, feel like learning, feel like changing. But feelings are unreliable. Some days you're excited, some days you're tired, some days you're distracted. That's why successful people don't depend on emotion, they depend on systems. A system is what guides you when motivation disappears. Think about brushing your teeth. You don't negotiate with yourself. You don't need inspiration. You just do it because the system is already built into your life. Success habits should feel the same way, automatic, not emotional. Let me show you the difference with a real life picture. Someone says, I want to work on my goals every day, but they don't have a time, place, or method. So each day becomes a decision, and decisions drain energy. By night, they feel tired without progress. Now imagine someone else who says, every day at 7 a.m. at my desk, phone away, I work on my main skill for 1 hour. No thinking, no debating, just execution. Their system removes confusion. Same goal, different structure. People fail not because they lack ambition, but because they rely on willpower instead of architecture. Look at someone trying to save money. If saving depends on mood, they spend emotionally. But if money is automatically transferred to savings before spending, discipline becomes invisible. The system protects the future without fighting the present. That's architecting behavior. Another example, fitness. People say, I'll work out when I feel like it. But life gets busy. Now compare someone who packs gym clothes at night, schedules sessions. The system creates momentum even when energy is low. Environment, fosters structure, tie consistency. Systems turn big goals into small daily actions. Without systems, goals stay imaginary. Now, how do you build success systems? First, identify your main outcome, not 10, 1 or 2. Skill, health, money, education, content, business. Second, attach behavior to time and place. Don't say at 6 p.m. at my desk, I practice for 45 minutes. Third, reduce decision making. Prepare clothes, tools, notes, space before you need them. Preparation is discipline in advance. Fourth, track visibly. What gets measured gets repeated. Use a calendar, checklist, habit tracker. Visual progress builds motivation naturally. Fifth, build recovery, not just pressure. Systems should be sustainable, not exhausting. Let me give you a deeper real-life example. Someone wants to build a YouTube channel. They feel motivated watching creators, but they don't upload consistently. Why no system? Now imagine they create one: Monday script, Tuesday record, Wednesday edit, Thursday upload, Friday analyze. Now creation becomes routine, not emotional. Over months, skill improves and audience grows. That's system thinking. Another example, studying. Many students study randomly. They cram, panic, forget. But a system-based student studies daily, reviews weekly. Stress drops. Systems convert chaos into control. People often say, I don't have discipline. Discipline is not personality, it's design. When your system is right, discipline feels natural. Also, systems protect you from bad days. Even when you're tired, your system carries you forward. You don't stop, you slow down, but you don't quit. Let's talk about habit friction. Make good habits easy, make bad habits difficult. Want to read, keep book open. Want to avoid scrolling, log out. Want to train, keep shoes ready. Want to study, prepare notes in advance. Design beats desire. Another real-world touch. Someone wants to improve communication. Without system, they wait for chances. With system, they practice daily, record voice, write, speak in small groups, get feedback. Growth becomes scheduled. Your system becomes your silent coach. Here's something powerful. Motivation starts projects. Systems finish them. Most people start strong and end weak. Systems reverse that. Start simple, grow strong. So instead of asking, how do I stay motivated? Ask, how do I build a life that doesn't need motivation to function? When your environment and systems support success, laziness disappears naturally. Ladies and gentlemen, your future is not created by big dreams. It is created by small systems executed daily. Stop fighting your nature. Start designing your behavior. Because when systems are right, progress becomes predictable. And predictable progress is the foundation of every successful life. Ladies and gentlemen, by now you may realize something important. Success is not something you chase. It's something you become ready for. Most people say, when I get the job, I'll be confident. When I get the money, I'll be disciplined. When I succeed, I'll believe in myself. But life works in reverse. First comes the person, then comes the prize. You don't attract what you want. You attract what you are prepared to handle. Think about a student who wants top grades but doesn't yet have the habits of a top student. They want the result without becoming the type of learner who earns it. So when opportunity appears, they panic instead of perform. Same with business. People want income but haven't built decision skills, patience, emotional control, and responsibility. So when money comes, it disappears faster than it arrived. Results without identity collapse. That's why thinking correctly means upgrading who you are internally before demanding external success. Let me give you a real-life picture. Someone wants leadership, but they avoid responsibility. They want respect, but they don't practice reliability. They want influence, but they don't work on communication. They want the title, but not the training. Now, compare that with someone who becomes valuable before being visible. They read daily. They practice skills quietly. They manage emotions. They keep promises even when no one watches. When opportunity knocks, they don't panic. They're already prepared. That's becoming first. Another example, confidence. Many people think confidence comes from winning. But confidence actually comes from keeping small promises to yourself. You say you'll wake early, and you do. You say you'll study, and you do. You say you'll train, and you do. Each small win builds self-trust. And self-trust becomes confidence. You stop asking others to believe in you because you believe in you. Now let's talk about thinking in long-term identity, not short-term emotion. Short-term thinkers say, how do I feel today? Identity thinkers say, what kind of person am I becoming? One question creates excuses, the other creates growth. When you think in identity, you don't ask, should I quit? You ask, what does a committed person do here? You don't ask, should I procrastinate? You ask, what does a disciplined person choose? Your behavior follows your identity. That's correct thinking. Let me share a real-world example. Someone wants to be a content creator, but they only post when inspired. They act like a hobbyist while dreaming like a professional. A professional shows up even when inspiration is gone. They study audience, practice delivery, improve lighting, sound storytelling. They become the creator before the crowd arrives. And when the crowd arrives, they're ready. Another example, relationships. People want loyalty, but they haven't built integrity. They want respect, but they haven't practiced listening. Healthy relationships come from healthy identity. Now, here's something powerful. Life rewards responsibility. The moment you start thinking, it's my job to improve, not government, not parents, not luck, not time, you. Correct thinking removes blame and replaces it with leadership. When something goes wrong, average thinkers ask, who's at fault? Correct thinkers ask, what can I control? Control thinking is freedom thinking. Now let's connect everything together. Correct thinking is designing your environment, building systems, training your habits, upgrading your identity, not wishing, working, not hoping, practicing, not dreaming, becoming. Let me speak to the person watching this right now who feels stuck. You're not behind, you're underprepared, and preparation can start today. One better decision today, one improved habit, one honest, calm-focused work. Small upgrades create big futures. You don't need a miracle, you need momentum. And momentum starts with thinking correctly. Before we close, remember this, your life will not change by accident, it will change by appointment. Schedule growth, schedule learning, schedule discipline. Become the person who doesn't wait but builds. Ladies and gentlemen, the world doesn't reward wishes, it rewards value, and value is created by the way you think, choose, and act every single day. So walk away from this speech not motivated for a moment, but committed for a lifetime. Think correctly, act intentionally, and become someone your future will thank you for.